Hey guys, Lindy Pearson here. My husband and I work with a great firm called Cressa. We're a commercial real estate firm, but unlike most firms in our industry, we only represent the tenants. We help business owners and C-level executives make better real estate and facility decisions while saving them money in the process. So welcome to Level Up, everyone, where we feature entrepreneurs, leaders, and other professionals who have demonstrated agency and innovation, both personal and professional lives. Today we have on our show a beautiful lady. She is a renowned business advisor and the founder of Dynamic Team Solutions. She and her team of experts help organizations and leaders across all industries raise the level of business functionality, teamwork, and productivity. Candice holds a master's degree in counseling and is a board-certified executive coach. She's a sought-after speaker and writer on topics including leadership, communication, conflict management, and team dynamics. She's a contributing writer for Forbes Coaches Council and author of her first upcoming book, Find, Fix, Fill Your Leadership Gap. So welcome, Candice. Happy Friday. I'm not even sure if we say that anymore. Is every day a Friday or every day a Monday?
Oh, happy Friday to you too. I still do enjoy the Friday, even though it feels very much like a Friday in the middle of the week sometimes and like a Monday on a weekend, depending on what is going on. But yeah, it's good to at least have a reason to celebrate something every day.
Yeah, absolutely. So I asked you on this podcast because you and I share very similar clientele. We both are dealing with organizations and companies and teams of people, CEOs, HR, everything. And we're talking about going back to the workplace. We're talking about really considering major, holistic, empathetic ways to unite your team in this now post-COVID world. So we're going to talk about how we can compel people to come back to work, the hybrid model, which is talked about throughout, hoteling concepts of the office space. How are you going to retain your talent? Who wants to work for you? Do you even want to go back to the office? And how we're going to navigate. So for me, Candice, talking to you and learning about how you started this, how you got on the path, how you recognized there was a need, really resonates with me. So I would love it if you could tell everyone.
Thank you, Lindy. I'm happy to. I think like most people, my story doesn't start with a business plan or anything along those lines. It starts with just, who I am as a person and who I was raised by and my circumstances and situations. And, we all come from those things. And, growing up, I'm a middle child. So I think there's a natural place where people say, oh, you must be a middle child when they find out my background's conflict resolution. And I laugh and I say, actually, I am. But beyond that, my parents divorced when I was young and my mom went back to the workplace. And as an adolescent in particular, I became really aware of just the stress and displeasure she had with her work, but she felt like she had to keep her job. She didn't really feel like she had other options. And she's a very loyal employee. So even though she was really unhappy, she wasn't apt to go look for something else. I think she's a bit risk averse if I was to, point it out as a particular reason. And in any event, I lived with that. I lived with somebody who was angry when they came home from work. I lived with somebody who, had a lot of things to say about their employer and the people that managed them. And, just growing up with that, I think it lit a fire in me that, people are at work for, a third of their life. I mean, in some ways it's more than that because we have it in our head afterward. Right. Yeah. And if you're miserable and you're bringing it home and you're bringing it into your personal life, that's not okay. And so while I didn't find my path right out of high school into that, it was about 12 years later when I, finished my master's degree and worked in the world of work for a while. I finally just found the path toward creating a place where I could make the workplace pleasurable, or at least really, really good for people where they wanted to come to work. And so that's where Dynamic Team Solutions was born.
That's so cool. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people right now who have two different households due to divorce or moving away or whatever it is that they need to accomplish. But it is very hard when you have a family that you're dealing with and you have, okay, go into the office, coming home, having to get things done, and still needing to provide for your family. It was really hard for us too. My mom worked. There's 3 of us at the time. There's now 4 of us, but it was tough. She didn't get to go to any of our plays or any of our, like, you know, mother-daughter things. It was hard. And she came home and she was tired, and she still had like her second job to do, you know, the homework, the cooking, the cleaning, all this, and getting ready. So it wasn't always fun and games, but yeah, that's.
And I'm sure our audience right now is male, female, young, old, especially anyone who has kids is like, yeah, my personal life, my professional life are a nonstop, ongoing give and take wheel of, you know, just work. It's all work. Even if it's pleasurable, there's a level of it that's also work, where we don't get that decompression, that time to kind of breathe and take care of yourself. It's tricky. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we have this burning question that is surrounding us in the business force, and it's planning on returning to the office, the actual return to the office, and the office of the future. And it's easy to think that those are all one thing, but they're really not. I think you talked a lot about pre-planning. I think you talked a lot about there's this building tsunami kind of coming. So what are your, like, what's your opinion on the next normal, and maybe you can shed some light on some of not the wrong things, but some of the things where we shouldn't be focusing on to kind of help in that direction.
Yeah. And Lindy, you know, the thing is, for the most part, everything I'm hearing from my clients, from the world at large, from things my husband learns in his world of business, is that people are really right now focused all on return to work or hybrid, or how to bring people back into normal. And I am shouting from the rooftops, this is not what you should be focusing. Focusing on that is going to lead you to a place of structure that's not going to fit. In short, you know, what I'm seeing, and you mentioned the tsunami, I have been telling people there's like this tsunami of conflict coming, because I mean, I've been writing articles about it, so maybe we can include links afterward, but there is so much going on with people. And when I say this, whoever's listening, you know, this is you also. So we've all been under this nonstop, constant strain, this hope of things going back to normal, this belief that they will be sooner than obviously it has. I think everybody has just had that thing, oh, it'll just be a few more months, or the next season, or by the start of the year. And we've just been holding our breath, in essence, waiting for it to get better. And so now, much like any kind of trauma or stress people go through, right as it's getting better is often where it's the most critical level of experience and tension people have, because they don't want to just have it go back to the way it was. They want it to be better. And so whatever things, small, medium, even big, of course, that were going on before in your workplace are exponential right now. And just to give, you know, the audience an indication of what I mean, as a business, mediation and conflict resolution is a big part of what we do. But in the first quarter of 2021, we have seen 4 times as many requests for mediation as we did in 2019 and 2020 combined. 2 full years compared to the first 4 months, and first 3 months, we had 4 times as many requests. And this is not people saying, oh, I just want to be proactive. This is people saying, oh, you know, things are hitting the fan right now, and we have some serious issues to take care of. So the tsunami is coming.
What are those issues though? Because this is huge. This is the things that people don't want to talk about. They want to just sweep under the rug and say, just come back to the office, you know?
Well, I'll say this, you're probably not going to, as employers and business leaders, you're not going to get that option to return, to say, we're just going to sweep it under the rug, and that's why there's this tsunami. People are so strained, they won't put up with it. They're going to be a lot louder, a lot more vocal. They're going to just dig their feet in the sand. I'm not coming back to the office. I am not working with that individual. I am not going to let him or her talk to me that way. I expect this or that. And it comes from a lot of different places. But some of the things we're seeing is even top leadership that are having issues with each other in partnerships, because, you know, these are people who want to have something successful together. They both have so much skin in the game, but they just have such different, maybe philosophical views or values that are now creating friction. And there's a need to stay together, but there's not a clear path to doing it. And we've had some that are even, it's through every level of an organization. We've even had some organizations that knew us long-term and knew our ability to help, and have brought us in for even more of the mid-level and even, lower level, if you want to call them that, employee, staffers, that they wanted to keep them. There was connections and value in keeping them in the organization, but they were just creating more turmoil, creating friction on their teams, gossiping, spreading rumors, just antagonistic behaviors, refusing to come to work if the other person would be in the office, all sorts of things. And, this is the stuff that when it's the reactive measures, which is, definitely something we help with, but not the only thing we do.
Right.
That's the stuff we're hearing a lot of right now.
Do you find that the smaller companies don't really engage in this as much as the enterprises or the corporate real estate world, being that, we only have 10 employees, so we can figure it out on our own? Or are you seeing all different sizes reach out to you?
Absolutely all different sizes, because we're all people, and it's about people. It's not about corporate. It's not, there can be other systemic things that happen on an organizational level, but that's where we see more of like team issues that aren't going well, or, some kind of leadership foible, like much to the comments of my book title, because that's what it's about. But leaders who can create unwittingly a lot of issues that then trickle down and affect large groups and teams. And, that's more of the, broader things we see from bigger companies and organizations. But the smaller ones, it really just comes down to people, and we need to be able to communicate and feel heard and feel valued and, feel opportunity and all these different things. And when people stop feeling any of those, there's the friction. Yeah.
So when you talk about keeping your talent, attracting new talent, what are some of the things that you help out with that?
In attracting talent, it's more, I would say it's a lot more talent retention. And that's because, we're not recruiters. And certainly we have been called upon to help businesses become more of that, best places to work, because they care for their team, because they provide professional development. So those are some of the things we do that help with that. But when it comes to retention, most people who leave, and I'm going to, share a question I often recommend be used, and I will ask if I'm ever a part of the exit interview strategies. Is it, why are you leaving? It's, why did you start looking?
Oh, that's
what was wrong that made this something appealing? Because, very few people are like, I can't wait to change something, very big in my life. I want to look for a new job, because there's always that unknown. Every now and again, somebody does have an opportunity that is more secure because it's a family member's business they're going to, or something along those lines. They're starting their own enterprise. They're retiring. Those are reasons people will leave, that it is all positive for them. There's no reason they wouldn't do it. But a lot of times there's risk involved, and people don't want to. They don't feel they have a choice. And a lot of that also is, there's at least 50% of our population, I would say even more, have some issues managing their own conflict, in that they'll just let things go and let things build up, and the stress goes to a place where they can't handle it. So it's easier to just move on than to deal with the issues at hand. And that's where being proactive as a business is also really important, and making sure people have the skills and the tools to manage really difficult conversations and to give really critical feedback, but in a kind and positive manner that makes people want to change, that makes people excited to keep working on things, and not just, bury it. It's, that's the retention piece that's important to me.
So when you deal with these organizations, and obviously you're starting from the top and working your way down, and you have different teams, it's really easy to do all this stuff online. It's just much easier, right? You're gonna read something, you and I can talk, but we talk about personal relationships. We talk about what you and I have together, the personal self-love that you have for yourself in order to be confident in your job and returning and coming back. So for me, I love all of that stuff, but I miss the socialization part of it. So you refer to this as like the after meeting.
Right.
Like
Yes.
the party, you talk about business and then you figure out how to do it afterwards, but we're like missing that component. So the interpersonal part of things, we're missing. How do we connect that? How do we get that back in there?
Yeah. And I think that's such an important component of this whole return to work concept. And I've talked to a few business leaders that were looking to just continue with fully remote. Our people are happy.
Right.
We can mitigate our carbon footprint. We can save money in terms of rent and overhead. And then there's also those concerns about, we can have a broad, there's a lot of great reasons behind it. But what they're forgetting is how much it's taking away from what they need, from the interpersonal that is a key part of what makes people motivated to come to work, what makes them excel, what helps them grow, what helps the business thrive. Because, in the after meeting, you can do a meeting online and that's great. And you can get information out there, but how do you get people to then start collaborating and really thinking beyond what was discussed? And that happens when you have somebody to have that discourse with who was in that meeting. When it's just that impromptu where you're, both going over to the bathroom together or grabbing a cup of coffee, or you happen to see them in the lunchroom. Yeah. And you just, I'm still thinking about boom. And the conversation grows from there. And when you have people all remote, no one wants to, and this is out of, in essence, a kindness. No one wants to bother the other person. They know they have other things on their plate. They know they have things on their own, list of to-dos for the day. And so it doesn't happen. It has to be just very organic that people come together. And that can't happen when you're remote. And so while this has been an interesting, I wouldn't call it an experiment. Certainly none of us wanted to be a part of this experiment. But, if we look at it like that, we can see that there are places where it's very survivable and places where it's not. And I think for that reason, the hybrid model makes a lot more sense. But it needs to be done, back to that planning comment you made, with so much intention, where people are designated for particular points in time to really come together, because that's where you build collaboration. That's where you build cohesion. That's where you develop a team. That's where you inspire innovation and create something far broader, far better, far more, exciting for not just the individuals, but for the recipients, whether it's a service or a product. It's from that. It's not from doing the same thing we've been doing in the past. It's from the future.
Yeah, I think a lot of patience has to be like number one for coming back to this workplace, because there's so much stuff going on. My kids just got back into school, and they're doing their own hybrid model. And some kids who got sick now have to stay home, and now the whole school has to stay home. And now there's just so many ways to navigate. That you really just have to have that empathetic heart no matter what. And I think there's a lot of silver linings with all of this, because I think it has really accelerated the word flexibility and hybrid in the workforce, the workplace, the workspace, however you want to combine it. I like the number one thing when I had kids going back to work, the number one thing I was fearful of was flexibility. I was afraid that I wasn't going to be able to go and do things, which stems back to my childhood of my parents didn't get to go to my stuff. And so I wanted to make sure that I didn't repeat that. And obviously I've done that in the past, but I think for other people who aren't so lucky and who, had to come into work every day from 9 to 5, had to, check in, check out, do their things. I think for that workforce, I think this is really huge for everyone to have their voice and to be able to do things and be collaborating if they want, at home if they want, hoteling concept in the office if you want, whatever it is. But overall, whatever you decide, progress is being made, growth is being made, goals are being met. So I'm really looking forward to some of these after parties. Meetings.
I like the after party. I'll go.
Yeah.
I was, just even as you were talking, I'm always considering these different things. And I could see where businesses might, as just an idea of a model, have full teams come in for maybe a week, that the whole week they are together. So it doesn't have to be that it's just after the meeting they stay for an extra hour. That's not how you create innovation. That creates pressure of, oh, I better think of everything now. And also gives people a feeling of failure if they didn't in the right time frame, or didn't opportunistically have a conversation in that time frame. Whereas if you have a week, let's say the meeting's on a Monday or a Tuesday, but people are together for that full week, they have that time to really process it and come together and think about it. And then you can let them go back hybrid for maybe the rest of the month, and they're in the office if they need to, but at home. I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at it, but I think that businesses can't just look at it as coming together for a meeting and then leaving again. I think that
I agree.
does not satisfy the purpose behind it.
Yeah, especially for someone like me. I mean, I do business development all day long, and to be able to talk about it afterwards, to be able to come up with something, because business development, it's not a black and white character. It is creativity, it is innovation, it's just being inspired because you're present in the moment, you know, all of that stuff. And when you're on Zoom and you got 63 tiles or even 10 tiles, sometimes you just kind of zone out. Or you come over here, or you get distracted, or maybe you turn mute on and you talk to your kids or whoever else is around. So yeah, this in person needs to kind of happen, but it needs to happen so everyone feels comfortable and everyone can continue feeling good about it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. So you mentioned a little something about a book, and I know that it hasn't exactly hit the shelves yet. Or Amazon, I should say.
It's in progress for anyone listening.
So if you could just really quickly just say a little bit about what inspired you to do that.
Oh gosh, great question. You know, I think there's a little bit of anybody who writes a book that knew that they always had it in them, that they wanted to put something out in the world. And so maybe there's a bit of that as a backdrop to who I am. But from the time I began this business, I've had people say, gosh, you just give such great advice. Or, wow, I never thought about that. Or, you really ought to write a book about those things because that's so useful, but I want to reference it more often than when I can pick up the phone and call you. And so, you know, for better than a decade, I've been jotting down notes and ideas. And truly, when I came down with it, and I'm almost afraid to say this out loud, but I filtered it all out. And when I just was starting the process of writing this book and realized I had 4 books. And so I'm working on the first. So anybody who really loves reading, find me, and you will be able to read lots of books that have to do with workplace relations in every different capacity. But the first one, which I felt was the most important and pivotal for organizations, was how leaders work. And that's because the work I do from the beginning of my work in mediation, although now we do a lot of team dynamic things and stretches far beyond conflict resolution. But I learned really early on that the things that go wrong, especially in organizations, often come back from leaders not doing it on purpose, doing it with the kindest heart, the best intentions, even strategic ideas. And yet somehow they're doing it in a way that's creating a lot of problems and friction. And having had the opportunity to see it in pretty much every business that has brought us in, I have a large body of knowledge of what are the causative factors. And so I boiled it down to, I'll just share the 3 main things: issues regarding trust, issues regarding role clarity, and issues regarding conflict management. And let me just say, this book is far more than those 3 things, but those are sort of the counterpoints of where things go wrong and where leaders end up askew from what's going to create a healthy team.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. I think that kind of goes back to pre-plan. Yes. Planning is everything. Pre-plan. I think I don't know how to say this properly. I think it's not easier. I think it's done more often of like an accidental, someone didn't think about the other side, or someone just reacted without taking a pause. And so some of these business owners who aren't necessarily meaning to do that, you know, there's been a couple of offended employees, and there's been a couple of people who have chosen not to come back to the office because it's not comfortable for them, or their needs haven't been taken. into account. So there's like some sort of like equality, like we all matter kind of something. We all have a desk. We all contribute to the business or to the team. How are you seeing something to like make people more aware of that? You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know what I'm trying to say. So I don't want to like separate the two of personal and professional. I want to constantly have that braided in because we're all growing. Even if my kids are older, they're out of the house at some point, not soon, but at some point I'm going to have grandchildren and there's going to be this, like, there's this constant cycle of everything. And I want that to be accounted for. Just a small example was I missed a board meeting last week, and it was because it was 2 weeks ago, it was my kid's first day of school. Everything was haywire, and I couldn't even think about joining on late because I looked like I just woke up and I had all these things bouncing around in my head. When I sent the email to this particular organization, One Generation, the response that I got was so great and so warm. And don't even worry about it. Here's the notes. And if you can, blah, 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 blah. And that to me, it was like my shoulders were here and I'm like, oh, like, this is great. This is how I want to be treated. This is how I want to treat everyone. And I want everyone else to be treated this way too, to not feel that pressure, to not feel anxiety, to not feel like dreading. And then when you're done, you're pooped. Emotionally, you're done, you're out. So what are some ways that the higher ups, as we call them, C-suite executives, can kind of trickle that down into their team?
I think it's such a big question, right? It's almost more a conversation than a question. But one of the things that comes to mind with regard to that is the concept, and it's going to at first sound like I'm going in a different direction than I am, the concept of diversity. And it's because, we as a nation, and I think for good reason, are talking so much about diversity right now and long overdue talking about it. But this isn't about racial equity. When I'm talking about diversity, it's about how unique each of us is, truly the diversity of us as individuals. And each of us has our own things going on. And I think not just at the leadership level, not just the C-suite, but at every person in an organization needs to be reminded of that to create that more holistic understanding. Mm-hmm. You experienced it when you were unable to attend that board event, when something just didn't go right in your world. But people in every capacity of life have things going on. It doesn't matter if you're fresh out of college, trust fund baby, you still have things that you have, crosses to bear, things that are going on in your life. Just as, the single mother of 4 who is of, maybe African-American descent and has no family that can help support her. And she's working really hard to support her kids and her family. And she has a whole load of things. I'm not saying that they're equal in what they need, but there's diversity in who we have on our workforce, and just recognizing that people's professional role does not always equate to what they're personally capable of doing on any day of the week. And just having some grace when you help people to plan and help people to know what is appropriate to expect. Because when people have an expectation that they're going to get something here and it hits here, they're really upset about it. They feel like it's not fair. This person isn't pulling their weight or other aspects of it. Instead, if you're listening to people and hearing them and letting them know maybe what you need and what you expect, but taking the time to understand where the delivery was a problem, just having that level of respect and that level of, warmth, as you used, to people is what's going to really build that level of trust in an organization. I talked about how leaders build trust. It is something that they think of as, we do 1, 2, 3. I've got 100 pages on it. I can tell you it's not 1, 2.
Marvelous.
There's a lot that goes into it and a lot that takes away from it. And, being understanding is a big thing that builds trust. And that does not mean being a pushover. You can be very strong. You can be very determined and focused and have high expectations and still build trust. But it does mean you have to be respectful of the individual.
Yeah, I really like the word grace. I love that you used it. Even when you say it like grace, like the corners of your mouth almost have to smile. Mm-hmm. And I think when you apply grace in any situation, whether you have steam coming out of your ears or not, to just remember that we're all human and that we all came from somewhere, and we're here today, and we're all trying to go somewhere. And to be able to do that, to execute that in a holistic human way, I think is what's going to be happening as everyone is going back. I think this whole year and next year, everyone is going to be talking about how do we want our office to be. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm hearing in my world is, okay, I have open space, I have warehouse space, I have too much space, I need to revamp my space and figure out, how are people going to be coming back to work? So again, going back to that plan. I think that will give you the best feedback. What about surveys? How do you feel about surveys? Because we've done a couple surveys for our clients, just trying to figure out how much square footage they're going to need and planning their return. And that has collected so much data that has been very helpful.
Yeah, I actually think surveys are great. I don't think that they are absolute, because people can sometimes be reserved, especially in negative things. And again, it's funny how much we complain about other people, right? But very few people want to say the negative. They're more inclined to say something kind of middle of the ground or on the more moderate level. And if they're really thrilled, they'll go over the top, right? But especially when it's something that potentially could hurt someone's feelings, they're very careful, which is a beautiful thing. It shows that we do have that compassion and that care, but it also removes some of the information. So we use surveys for certain things when it's fairly easy for people to be really honest with us. Yeah. And if we think they're not, then we do, direct one-on-one conversations, and we recommend businesses do that. You can't rely on a survey to get certain types of data. But, certainly we use it to gauge where our clients are at. Even just right now in this current year, we're surveying our clients and, the business community that we're connected with, and saying, hey, what are your needs right now? Because we know you have them, and you're not always reaching out, but we know because of the clients that are reaching out how ugly it is right now and how many things are creating stress, and, just helping people to be ready for it. And that's, I think, sometimes really helpful, is to have someone just kind of tap you and say, do you need me help on these issues? Because maybe it's not as easy as it looked, to get everybody back into the office, or to get things back on track, or to keep clients happy, or whatever it is. Yeah. And part of that, I think, is, I just can say, with the conflict thing, one of the things we're also seeing is people are experiencing clients that aren't as happy. They also have this greater level of expectation. And so, it's in every aspect of who we are. Because of this past year, we just aren't willing to take good enough anymore.
I like that. Yeah. There's no need to do that to yourself. There's no need to be stressed, overcommitted, or feeling like you can't get the things that you really want done.
Right.
Yeah. I like that. What do you still want to accomplish?
Oh, can I take over the world?
Yes.
So, I have to say probably my biggest, I call it a personal goal, but it's also a professional one, is to get my book out the door. I'm really pleased with it. And once I do, I think I'll feel inspired enough by that I'll be easily ready to start second, third, and fourth ones as those go on. Yeah. They all intertwine. And so it will at some point be just this this series of ideas and thoughts around, making the workplace one where people want to come to work and want to work with one another. However, I also am looking to really help support more businesses. And one of the things, as a business, we're looking to explore ways to support businesses, not just the high level ones that we already service, but some that are maybe nonprofits and have lower budgets. And we're creating even a second tier in our business to support those clients with more intern level, really educated, but not as experienced consultants. And so we're kind of developing that, because I just want us to have greater reach. And myself personally, I'm now working on serving on some boards, because I feel like that's a service I can really provide that can affect a whole organization. So that's something I'm also doing, because I see so much value in being able to, from the top down, educate and inform and give great guidance as to what are the things to think about that maybe do not fall into the traditional, let's think about this mode. Finances, people are always thinking about the legal issues, but the interpersonal, which is huge and getting even more point of focus to people.
Yeah, community.
Very few people that are addressing those needs. And that's my wheelhouse. I love it. And I really look forward to helping more businesses by being a part of that.
That's great. Yeah. Before pandemic, I mean, it's the name of the game for nonprofits is fundraising, fundraising, fundraising. And now there's an even more tremendous need across the board. And there's a lot of things that aren't being recorded, seen. So the need is growing. So yeah, if you need help with that, I am involved with many nonprofits, so we can talk about that offline.
Love to.
Yeah. So Candice, thank you so much for being on Level Up. You're awesome. Every time I talk to you, I learn something new. What we're going to do is, for any of your social handles, how is the best way to get a hold of you? Would it be LinkedIn or?
LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn, Candice Gottlieb-Clark. You can find me there, or you can look up Dynamic Team Solutions. Either one should reach me. I do use Facebook, but I don't primarily use it for business. It's just one of those things I never saw the need to connect the business and personal too much. So I separated it. And while it's not something I can give you verbally over the thing, I do offer free consultations. And if somebody would like to go to our website, dynamicteamsolutions.org, on the contact us page, there is a way to connect for a free consultation. And I welcome all of your listeners to.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So we really enjoyed talking to you. And what I take from this is increasing the effectiveness. We all know how to be good people, but it's about being good people in the moment. It's about planning on bringing everyone back as a team, not just a couple of people, which kind of has to do with the cohesion of everything to make that a little bit more smooth. And the functionality of teams, I'm going to go with like the after party scenario. I think, just like you said, teams is more than just reporting. It's not reporting the step you did. Yes, that is what you fuel the pot for, but it's not everything. And just really talking with our leaders and different organizations in our community. So yeah, thank you for making the world a better place.
You too, and thank you for inviting me to be on Level Up, Lindy.
Yeah. All right. Until we meet again. Thank you, everyone.